Hey, this is Keith Mohr from Musicians Anonymous, back here with another show, and I'm so excited to have a phenomenal singer-songwriter artist that I have learned about. I've seen her name around on the internet, because, you know, you see people on the internet, but I've never met her personally, and this is Amy Gerhartz. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Wonderful.
Oh,
thanks for coming to the Tree.
Oh.
Yes, this is a Tree at Live Oak on Music Row on how they pronounce it? Demumbrian Street, right? I used to think it was Demon Brewing, but that's
how Siri says it.
That was a little dark. So I'm so glad to be here. This is where I hold my National Rising Songwriter Contest on the stage over there, and we have one tonight. So I'm like, let's do an interview today. So
I love it.
I'm so excited to have you here. Even though I just learned about you, I did some looking around, which I always do, and I'm like, I listened to some music, and I'm like, holy cow, you have got it going on.
Thank you.
And are you independent?
I'm independent.
Doing all this on your own?
Yes. Anyone is welcome to help me.
Yes.
At any time.
Yes. Join our fan club.
Please.
$100 a month.
Now,
you get one song.
Yeah. Let's bump that.
Bump it up. Oh, it's up now. Oh, because you've been doing this a while. Right. So you're worth more.
Because recording costs money.
Yes. Yeah. Well, tell us the little bit of who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Yeah.
I mean, give the backstory. Like, how did you end up in Nashville?
For sure. It's going to be a little bit of a longer story.
I know, that's okay.
So I grew up singing and playing music, and well, actually, I didn't really pick up an instrument. I played a little piano growing up.
Yeah.
But most of it was I grew up doing theater and musical theater, and then I ended up going to Florida State and studying vocal performance at Florida State for 2 years, and then I switched to a BA in music, and then did a emphasis on ethnomusicology, which is anthropology of music.
Wow.
And yeah, it sounds really cool. I'll be honest, I remember about 25% of college. However,
you have studied.
I studied.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was vocal work. In college, I started writing songs, and I had that kind of moment where I realized I didn't want to sing classical music.
Right.
I loved it. It's beautiful. But it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted to do.
Gotcha.
And so I started writing songs in college. I picked up a guitar. My first guitar I ever bought was in 2003.
Oh, wow.
I was probably 20, 21.
Yeah.
And I started learning how to play guitar, and I would say for the first 4 to 5 years it was god-awful playing and singing.
Okay.
But I started playing, coffee shops at college. I started playing. There was this one bar that would hire me every Sunday night to play my senior year of college. Cool. Bullwinkles in Tallahassee, Florida.
Bullwinkles, yeah.
And I just kind of I started writing. I actually did my first album. I recorded my first album when I was in college, and in my friend's garage.
Yeah.
That one is no longer for sale.
What year was that?
That was in 2004.
Okay, so that was probably hard disk, right? Hard disk,
yeah,
or was it ADATs?
It was a CD.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't sell that one anymore.
No, okay.
Most songwriters don't really sell their first couple of songs. Or things.
Okay, all right.
But it was a good learning experience, and then I graduated college. I went to Virginia, where my parents were military, so we grew up traveling all of the time. And then I moved to Virginia after school, where they had retired.
Gotcha.
And I worked for a music production company for about a year and a half, and I had worked for them over the summers whenever I had gone home.
What town was that in?
That was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh, okay, down
So
southeast.
they owed, or at the time, I don't know if they still do, but they managed the Norva in Norfolk, and they also managed an amphitheater in Portsmouth, Virginia. So I worked for them at the front desk receptionist, and also helped with design work and helped with some other things.
Good.
And then on a whim, I up and moved to New York. And I was still playing bars and stuff at night here.
Yeah.
And moved to New York City, decided I was going to go. I was in my 20s. I had $2,000. I was going to make it.
Hey, single and free.
I know.
Right. Do it then.
$2,000 in New York really lasts you about
not.
like half a month of bills.
Right.
And so I went and I ended up getting a job for a commercial real estate company as an executive assistant, and still played music at night. And then I just was unhappy. I was really miserable working for someone else, and I called my mom up and I said, Mom, I think I'm gonna quit my job to do music full time. That's a fun conversation to have. I got really lucky though. My mom was very supportive.
Good.
And I had friends, because I went to Florida State, that had moved to Atlanta. Yeah. And were living in Atlanta, making money playing music, 6-7 nights a week.
Right.
And so I moved to Atlanta and was there for 8 years, playing cover shows, corporate events, weddings, you name it. I did it.
Making money.
Yeah, and hustled that scene. And then while I was in the Atlanta market, I ended up doing a music cruise. I actually went on as a passenger. Okay. Bought a ticket, went on this music cruise called the Rock Boat, which is a Sister Hazel sponsored cruise through a company.
There's a bunch of those.
They're so great, and so I went on as a passenger. And the year that I went on, Zach Brown actually had to cancel last minute. Okay. And so because I knew Zach through the Atlanta community and knew of other musicians in the Atlanta community, they had put me in touch with the production manager for this cruise. Okay. And so I actually got to perform a couple times on the cruise and fill up a couple spots. Yeah. And then from there I was able to meet some other musicians that were touring around. The great, phenomenal guitar player, Brad Facchino. Okay. He and I began to work together. He produced 2 EPs for me and then an acoustic album. And then fast forward, that was 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. 5 years later, I actually got asked back on the cruise after I had done some albums and done some work to be an official artist on this cruise ship. And I've done some other amazing events as well. But that was kind of the catalyst in me being able to do my own music all of the time. Yeah. And so from being a part of this community and this, networking with fans, that's huge. Yes, huge. It is. And then also just caring about people and showing up and getting them to care about you and all of that.
Very important.
I've been very, very fortunate that I've been able to tour across the country the last 6 years now, playing predominantly house shows. So I do mostly house concerts. I'll do some festivals, some charity events, and I just got asked to do the Rock Boat again. This will be my 5th year officially for next year. So that's been my touring life as an independent musician. Wow. And it's a little bit of a different path. I have a lot of friends of mine that do house concerts, but I find them incredibly fulfilling. I'll go into someone's home. There'll be tickets, which are really suggested donations for the events, and that has brought me here to Nashville. I was in Atlanta, and I like Atlanta a lot, but I never loved it. Gotcha. And so for me, being on the road a lot, it was easier for me to come here, be a little more centrally located to Chicago and Texas and a bunch of other places. Yeah.
Plus, a lot of people are here. You can get face-to-face with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And go to BMI and other places, right?
Yeah, I've been a CSAC writer for a while, but I've never, before I moved to Nashville, I did very little co-writing. Very little. And I would say that the best thing that's happened is being able to network with other musicians and other writers. And some of my best songs that I've written with other people, which is the coolest part about it. And I just wish I was here a little more to network. Right. Which is, the change of plans of the things we talked about before. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a really good journey, and I just had a brand new project come out in January. Go buy it.
Yeah. What's it called? It's
called Hold On.
Hold On.
It's a 5-song EP.
Yeah.
And
so you're everywhere where fine music is sold.
Yes. 2 of my albums are available everywhere. We were just talking about how I pulled a couple older albums off temporarily, and it was more just a personal decision of being able to get new fans and not having them confused with the music I used to do versus the music I'm doing now. Yeah. But eventually everything will be up for sale through my website. Yeah. What's more than likely this month, because I'll have some time now finally.
Right. Well, it's really good. I mean, you sent me the link over to Spotify, and I just listened down, and I'm like, holy cow. I mean, these songs are so good and produced so well, and you're an really amazing singer.
Oh gosh,
I mean, the vocal studies that you did obviously paid off.
Yes, and there's always little tweaks and tunage things that have to happen in the studio anyway. But but thank you all in all.
I know when I can hear it.
Yeah, thank you.
Honestly, because it's like but I mean.
I don't mean to downplay myself. It's
right. If anybody asks you, are you any good? What do you say?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I'll ask that too.
It's not an arrogance thing. I think there's an interesting thing that happens with musicians. We're afraid to talk about our talent.
That's right.
Because and not just musicians in general, everyone. I think we live in a culture where if we say what we do, if someone asks, that it feels like we're bragging, even though we're not bragging. Like
Right.
it's there's that fine line.
Yes.
You know, you meet people, I'm sure, all the time. They're like, oh, I'm so and so, and I've done this with this artist and that person,
Yes.
and that can kind of come off a little.
There is a fine line.
There's that fine line. That can come off a little harsh, but
Yeah.
I do think being proud of your accomplishments, and if someone asks you, and if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you that I've been doing this long enough now. I mean, 12 years of being self-employed.
Wow.
I at least know somewhat what I'm doing.
You do know what you're doing. I mean, that's the thing I say is like there's a fine line between boldness and arrogance, and
Yes.
that line is called passion.
There you go. I like that.
And you got to be very close to that line.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to go over because people can sense that, but
Oh,
you don't want to
totally.
be all the way away from it too, because then it becomes like almost like a false humility. You
Yeah.
can sniff that out just as much.
Well, I think that's really it. The false humility, or just the falseness in general.
Yeah.
I think if you're a genuine individual and you're passionate about what you do, people are going to see that.
Yeah.
They're going to see if you're faking it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Well, so all this travel and all this history and all this stuff. What's your big takeaway from all of it?
Oh,
Loaded question.
in terms of.
Well, just like, I mean, what have you? It's not been easy.
Oh no, definitely not.
Right.
And you know, we were talking about this before we officially started
Right.
the interview, but you know, there's no. My biggest takeaway, at least at the point where I'm at right now, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason behind one person's success and another person's success.
Right.
I think that it really, really does boil down to being in the right place at the right time and knowing the right people.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's really hard, especially when you're creative and when you're in this business. Like I've definitely shopped my songs or a couple of them around on Music Row, and I've definitely played songs for people. And you play a song for 10. What's the thing? 10 different people. You get 10 different opinions on what you should do. And at some point, you have to, I think personally, follow your gut on the song, because I could play a song for you and you may not like it, but then I go play it for a show and I've got 20 people crying in front of me. Sure. So there's a connection somewhere.
What's more important?
Exactly, and that's the other thing too. What's more important? Is it this one person that works for this one label or this one, publishing company? If they don't quite like it because maybe it's not what they're exactly looking for, that's okay.
Right.
You have to be okay with the rejection. You have to be okay with the fact that your songs are not going to be liked by everybody.
Right.
But when you have fans that are actually buying your music and supporting you and paying your bills, you have to really figure out, like, the most important thing is and the hardest thing for me is, the hardest lesson I've had to learn is to separate the artistic side of who I am with the business side.
Oh yeah.
Because if you get into music as a business, this is a business.
It is.
If you want to do this for fun, you can do whatever you want to do. That's totally fine.
Who cares?
But if you're getting into music to actually have a profitable business, or at least sustain, which is what I say that I've been doing.
Right, you got to do it.
You have to be able to take the emotion out of it sometimes.
Ooh, yeah.
And you have to really be able to separate that someone's opinion is not a reflection of you.
Right.
It's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm sure there are people that listen to my songs or listen to the way I sing and don't like it.
Yeah, but
that is what it is.
They're stupid.
Oh, well, I'm going to go with your opinion on that one.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you're sharing some amazing, incredible stuff.
Gosh.
That I think that a lot of people who first get going, they don't realize it.
No.
So you're sharing stuff that you've learned from 12 years of hard knocks.
Well, and the other thing too is it took me up until maybe last year or the year before. I would say last year. So when I was doing this last project, I've hired my producers, and then I basically tried to do all the marketing and all the PR and all the stuff. I almost swore. All of it on my own, and that would be, I think, a life lesson that I've learned twofold. Stop trying to do everything by yourself. Stop. I'm just now learning it, and had I taken advantage of this 10 years ago and built a team 10 years ago, I would have felt a lot less of the pressure and a lot less of the weight of having to do it all alone. And then the other thing I had to realize is that I hired a company here. I think they're great. They're AGD, Another Great Day Entertainment, and I hired them for my last project that just came out to kind of help me learn how to pitch the songs, to market.
Yeah.
And I think they had a lot of really good information, especially for artists that are just starting out.
Yeah.
And there are lots of companies in town that do that.
Oh, yeah,
and there are lots of people in town that'll help you out. The problem is that when you get started, you don't want to ask. Because you're afraid to seem stupid, you're afraid
you don't know who to ask.
Or you don't know who to ask, exactly.
Yeah.
But the biggest lesson I learned through this whole process was that I run a business.
Yeah.
You're the CEO. Not be. And it's
You're like the Ronald McDonald of McDonald's.
The funny thing is, I joke that I work for my own business because it hasn't quite gotten to the level I would like it to be.
I understand.
But when you can finally say, I'm not just a musician, I'm a business owner.
Yes.
That's a huge power play and a power move for you. And it doesn't matter about everybody else. It matters about you because. For a long time, when people would ask me what I did, I would say, oh, and especially outside of Nashville, and this was hysterical. Yeah. When I moved to Atlanta and I was doing music full time, people would say, well, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I play music. Right. So, well, what else do you do? Yeah. Like, no, that's what I do. That's my job. That's what I do, music full time. And that was hard, and for a long time, I kept thinking to myself, well, I'm just a musician. I'm just a musician. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be good at this business stuff. I'm just a musician. You got to stop that.
How do you expect? There. My thought that pops in my mind is, how do you expect anybody to take you seriously if you don't take yourself seriously?
Absolutely.
You know, and so you kind of go through the whole thing, just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Not being intentional.
Yeah.
And not having a game plan. It's like if you want to drive from Nashville to LA, you got to kind of.
You don't have a map.
You got to kind of have a map, but then again, you can detour a little bit if you want to go look at the world's biggest rubber band ball, or, the Grand Canyon.
I did the popcorn ball.
Oh, the popcorn ball. So there is advantages to touring because you can go see all these wonderful sights.
Yeah,
absolutely. But a lot of times you're driving in the middle of the night to try to get halfway to your next destination.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Absolutely.
It's not easy, man. I mean, it is the hardest thing that you will probably ever do.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine that it's probably the same for any self-employed business owner anywhere in any field.
Yeah.
But being able to get into your head, or get out of your own head, I should say, and really acknowledge the fact that you're doing something. If you're trying to run your own business on any level, you're doing something that the majority of people don't do.
That's right.
And that's okay.
You're special.
You're special. Of course, we can say that.
You're special. And mom and dad think you're great.
Yeah, but don't downplay it. And then but on the flip side of that, and another hard lesson I've had to learn is that if I'm going to run a business, I have to actually start acting like I run a business. And being a good business owner, I got tips for days on what not to do.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Life is a process of elimination.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Coming to mind right now, you've got the creative entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Doing this, and I'm a fan of Star Trek. So the creative is Kirk and the entrepreneur is Spock.
Yeah.
And Kirk is the one that's taking all the risks, all the chances, and coming up with these harebrained ideas.
Yeah.
And then Spock is going, no, Jim, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. And I said this last show, and I'll say it again. You can't jump off this spaceship and go through this burning atmosphere and land on this alien planet and expect that all the women are going to love you. Because that's what Star Trek was all about. I don't understand how that would happen, but there was always women on these alien planets.
Why are they beautiful men?
I don't, because that show was highly sexist, I think.
I'm sure. I've only watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I've seen enough to know I don't really want to watch it all the time. But I do know that the Kirk and Spock thing is real because you have to wear both hats as an owner, a creative entrepreneur at the same time.
It's It's hard.
It's really hard. And that's why most creative entrepreneurs are sometimes a little up and down and all around.
Of course. Of course, because it's all about, my biggest goal or my biggest challenge has been to try to find a balance.
Right.
You really have to do it. And I think a lot of it is acknowledging the things that I'm not good at, which is really hard because when it comes to my stuff and my music, I want this little tweak in the production and I want this little tweak in the advertising, and I want to be able to have control over all of it.
And you should.
Yes. But you also have to learn. And another battle I'm learning is learn when to let someone else, when you start building your team, take control.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they take control over everything, but trust them to do the job that you're assigning them to do.
I mean, a smart business owner starts their business, ramps it up, gets the RPMs going, and then gets a team and hires people and then lets it go, and then they can go vacation, you know, and,
in a perfect world,
Aruba, you know, whatever.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, but see, you can't do that because even the CEO, you have to be present and do your thing.
Well, you're also the product.
You are a product. You're like a can of green beans on the shelf.
People ask me all, and like I said earlier, like musicians, we don't. We are probably some of the most amazing. I'm trying to think how to say this.
Nicely. No.
Yeah, nicely, because this is how I feel. None of us really go into music like, yes, the initial reason we go into music is, wouldn't it be great if we were all famous and signed to labels and had billions of dollars coming in? Yes, that would be great for any business.
Do it.
But we've also picked an incredibly unstable industry that changes, every 6 months or so?
Crazy.
So none of us are really, you get into it for that, you don't stay into it to be rich. You stay in music because you enjoy music and you enjoy being in this process.
Right.
It's a hard process to be in, especially when the return on your investment that you put in is very, very little. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I always say the role of the creative is to serve culture.
Yeah.
You're serving culture.
Absolutely.
And you serve culture like a waiter serves a fine meal. You know what I mean?
I love a good meal.
I love a good meal too, and I love when you're sitting there and the table is beautiful and set nice, the atmosphere is nice, and the waiter or the waitress comes by and they're looking good and they're professional. And they bring that meal out and they lay it before you, and they don't just throw it down with like plastic silverware and whatever.
Yeah.
It's nice, and you're like going, man, I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
I'm ready, you know, and you're bam, and it's this whole experience.
Absolutely.
You know?
And then on the flip side of that, though, the behind the scenes, with this waiter in this restaurant that prepared that meal, they bought so much stock of food, they had so much prep time, they had so much work, and maybe only one person came in to buy that meal that night.
Oh, yeah.
So then they lose their butt on the money and the stuff that they purchased in. And it's hard. But it goes both ways. You have to be conscious of what you're doing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew this was going to be a wonderful interview because I knew you knew what you were doing.
I'm going to say what everybody in Music Row says. I am just one person's opinion.
Yeah, but that's okay, man. I mean, you have lots of experience, which is amazing.
I think I've got experience on the independent side.
You do.
For sure.
And this is what this is about. This is about nurturing and helping the independent, because, I mean, a lot of people come to Nashville to try to make it.
Yeah.
But what is making it? Can you define it for you?
I think that is such a great question, because I really don't feel like there's one answer. I feel like making it has to be personal to you.
Yeah.
What's important to you? What are your goals? If your goal is to get out of working at that coffee shop and making money through music, and you make just enough to pay your bills, then you've made it. If your goal is to be signed to a publishing company and to just sit in your home and write music all the time, in my opinion, you've made it if you've reached those goals.
That's good.
But the other thing too is that, like, a person who is signed to a label and who is making a ton of money, they might have a ton of success and a lot of money, but even then, for them, they may not feel like they've actually made it to where they really want to be. So it's all subjective. And just because they've made it on a different level, if you have one musician, like I was saying, my songwriter friends, I have some guys that I played music with in Atlanta before they moved here, before I moved here. I did 2 shows with Zach before he exploded, you know, on the network. And now they've made it, and their success is awesome, and I congratulate all of them. And my songwriter friends, like one friend had a #1 hit last year on the radio. That is awesome. That is so incredible. And I think they've made it, but that doesn't mean that I haven't made it also. That's where the problem, I think, comes in, is that we want to compare our success to someone else's success.
Dangerous.
Especially in music.
Dangerous.
And you just can't do that. Everyone has a different journey and a different path. And when you can get out of the, I need to be there, 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 and just say, where am I at now, and where do I want to be tomorrow, and just take it one step at a time and one day at a time, you're going to take a lot of pressure off yourself to try to be this thing that may or may not be what your journey is.
Right, and making it is a moving target, I think.
Oh gosh, and it changes. It changes totally. My goal when I started touring full time was to not play cover shows anymore. And so when I moved here and I let go of a lot of gigs, a lot of good paying gigs in Atlanta,
Yeah.
And I said, I have been touring for a year now, or a year and a half, doing my own music.
Yeah.
Or maybe actually it was 2 years before I moved here.
Okay.
I've already been out making money. I knew I could make more money selling my shirts and my CDs and playing house shows than I could playing in a bar.
Yeah.
And after 8 years of playing in bars, that was no longer fulfilling for me.
No.
It wasn't making me happy. And that's another thing. You have to be able to acknowledge when something's not making you happy anymore. But and my goal was I will not play cover shows anymore. So that was my goal. So I reached that goal.
Good.
And now I've got a new goal. And my new goal is now how do I actually make a profit off of my music to where I'm making more every year.
Yeah.
And then
Where are your profit centers?
I'm sorry?
What are your profit centers?
The majority of my money?
Yeah, what things do you, like, I call them revenue creeks. And they go into revenue streams, and they go into a revenue river, hopefully.
Well,
that you can, take the yacht down. What's your
the bulk of my streams right now is the live shows.
Yeah.
Touring is the majority of where I make music, and then second to that is my merchandising sales at those shows.
Yeah.
I have started beefing up my online sales, which has been good.
I know you have these
I
cool
have
little
bracelets. I
Man,
started
those
making
are cool.
bracelets.
With your little sayings.
Yeah.
Are those part of your lyric or song titles?
Lyrics, song titles. So hold on. You got this. Loving myself with a song off too.
Oh man.
So I tried to be a little creative. I was going to hire somebody. I actually had this moment. I was in Florida at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And usually most musicians, we do CDs, T-shirts, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a sticker or something.
Right.
I don't even dip into vinyl. I'm not going to spend my money on vinyl for the 3 people that I know that want vinyl. I'm sorry. I love you guys. I will totally make it an option if you want to buy a one-off from a company. Yeah. That's fine. But I'm not going to carry a bunch of vinyl around for me because, Joe Schmo in the middle of, Kentucky probably might not want a vinyl at my show. So it's just, you have to know your fan base.
Yeah.
But with that, I try to think of ways that I can bring something new to the table where it's not just a T-shirt and a CD. And so I was going to hire, because I noticed a lot of women at my shows wearing all these bracelets, and so I was going to hire someone to hand stamp bracelets for me.
Good idea.
And I was going to do 50 bracelets, and it was going to cost me $500. And I had this moment. I was like, this cannot be that hard to do. This really can't. So I went and bought the materials, and I ended up making them myself. And the materials were only, I bought a little extra. So the materials themselves were only about $150.
Okay.
And then I had to order more supplies, of course. But for that $500 now I can make, or $500.
So you make them yourself?
I make them myself.
Are they like copper or metal?
I've got copper, brass, and aluminum right now. And I ordered the stamps, and I also ordered an arbor press. But all of that, I ordered all of the supplies for well under $500, and I've been able to make way more than 50 bracelets. Yeah. So it's just being smart with the decisions you make.
That's a smart, independent artist.
Some people would probably say, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do it, and that's okay. For me, I thought, I've got like 2 or 3 hours in the morning. Like,
what are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Social not working.
Yeah, exactly. I can learn how to make these bracelets. And eventually, I'll have to hire someone else to make them for me as my business grows.
As you grow, yeah.
But yeah, it's learning how to do some things on your own.
So cool. So when you go out and do your house shows, do you encourage people to get on a email list or like to cultivate relationship, or how do you get them to be able to keep in touch with them to grow?
The majority of it, I don't tell them to do emails. I'm
text.
I'm not a believer in email lists anymore because what do we all do? We get emails in.
Yeah,
we delete
I've noticed
them.
that
We don't look them. I don't look at any emails that come in unless it's from somebody I know.
Right,
or if it's like, I'll scan the sender. That's what I do.
People do respond to text.
Now, I do think, I'm not saying don't do emails. You're still going to have your fan base that have it. I've actually been thinking about getting the whole text stream together.
Yes.
A lot of my contact, I say, follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
Follow me on Facebook. All of my posts, and I do a lot more Instagram than I do Facebook.
That's for people my age.
Well, yeah.
I'm on there all the time.
Instagram, and then now I've just started LinkedIn as well. Do you follow Gary Vee? Do you know?
No.
You should check him out. It's amazing. Business entrepreneur.
Is it Vaynerchuk?
Vaynerchuk?
I know the name.
I
know the name. I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
I just don't have time.
But he has really good insight on being able to connect and network in social media. And I'm right on the cusp of being a millennial. So I'm like 1982, and I think millennials are like 80 to 2000 or something. So there's social media drives me crazy.
Oh yeah.
But there is
necessary.
That's the way everything's going.
Yeah.
So if you want a business and you want it to run,
yeah.
you've got to learn how to figure out how to do it in those markets.
Yeah.
You just have to.
So you do all that yourself too?
Yeah.
Man, you are busy.
Yep. But I might be hiring a social media person this year if anyone's interested.
There are so many people in Nashville that do that.
Yeah.
And
I want somebody literally like 20 years old that knows how to do it.
Yeah, there you go. Because they're in touch with what's going on now.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So
well, they're also just not they
don't need $100,000. They don't need $100,000 either. And that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
So here in Nashville, you could probably get an intern.
Well, and that's a thought process. I need to be here to direct.
There's so many
because I also do my booking. I also do
you are the DIY queen.
I am, and you know what? The life lesson: hire help. Because now I'm at the point where I'm like.
I wrote an article one time called DIY Can DIY.
Ooh.
And it's doing it yourself can do yourself in.
Yeah.
And it's all about what you're talking about. Like you can't do it all, especially when you start getting busy and you're going out.
Yeah.
If you're just doing one-off, little things here and there, it's okay. But when you're starting to hit the road, Jack, and you're driving 8 hours a day and you're playing, and you just can't do it all.
Yeah.
And it's...
And a lot of it, too, is just having the money to be able to do it all, too.
Right.
Because that's the biggest struggle. I think the thing that keeps any independent musician from getting to where they really want to be is the finances.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, we were talking about where you were going to ask me a question where you feel like I'm lacking in my business. And the biggest thing I admitted to you before I came on the show was my video. My video content is non-existent. And it's expensive.
Expensive to do well.
However, there are ways around it. And a lot of it has come down to burnout for me, being a little tired, being a little worn down, trying to have the creativity to keep coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
But the video content, I mean, if you want to do a really well done video, you're looking at, in my opinion, you're looking at a couple $1,000s or more. And that's on the low independent level.
Low end.
Now, there are ways around it. Like you can do acoustic videos and have a friend, get with somebody who knows how to work Adobe, who knows how to work these programs. And the other thing that I'm starting to do now too is trades.
Yes.
Which is huge. So if you don't have any money, some bartering, or get a friend, because I have another musician friend of mine who does video content. He does lyric videos, and he's incredibly affordable.
There you go. Lyric videos are great.
So, but with the trade thing, like I have some people, like you might find musicians that are skilled at this area, and you might be skilled at this area. So you help them do this, and they'll help you do that.
Yeah,
and
that's why I like to create
the community.
Co-op.
The co-op.
I created actually a co-op recently. I'm going to toot my own horn. It's called Nashville Songwriters Collective.
You should toot your own horn. That's great.
And it's people that I'm meeting here, at my contest who are relatively new or still trying to figure. They're a little bit wishy-washy, still trying to figure it out. So bring them in the community and just try to mentor them. I really believe in mentoring.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I believe that it comes back, that if you give, it comes back.
Well, and I think being a member of multiple co-ops is really important as well. I know we've got a lot here in Nashville.
Yeah, start your own too.
And start your own, or even, another life lesson, I mean, being being at this for 12 years on my own is really learn as much as you think you can learn. And when you think you've learned it all, you're in a bad place.
Right.
You're in a really bad place when you think you've learned how to do everything.
Yes.
I remember when I first got started, I had this I'm kicking myself in the butt a little bit too, because one of my closest friends, before I moved to New York, she's like, you need to move to Nashville. You need to move to Nashville. You need to move to Nashville. And I said, I don't like country music. I don't think I'm going to move to Nashville. And now in hindsight, where am I? In Nashville.
Yeah, but you're not doing country music.
I'm not. Oh, no.
And neither is a lot of other people.
It's not even about that. It's not. If you take the genre out of it, learning how to run a business, learning how to network with other musicians, learning how to co-write, those are things that, in hindsight, I wish I had taken advantage of. A lot longer ago.
Right.
Previously.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good stuff. I know that the post that I saw on Facebook that got me thinking like you would be a great interview was the one where you were talking about how difficult it has been for you to be doing this on yourself and how hard it is to make income. And so you have taken some of that past experience you've had working for the real estate company, right? And,
I have my own company,
And you've got your own, right?
Yep. So I'm getting into real estate investing. Which was the kind of opposite end of things. And investors same thing. You got to learn to network, work together, because not everybody's looking for the same type of properties. I made a decision. I kind of had an aha moment. My dearest friend, Megan, who co-wrote Hold On With Me, she loves Tony Robbins. And we went to the Tony Robbins event that was here.
Big deal.
With Gary Vee and Damon John and a bunch of other people.
I bet that was amazing.
I think, it was incredible. It was incredible. But you'll also have people there selling programs and things that you can do to get into other areas of finance. And for me, the one thing I've noticed with music is that I put so much money into it every year. Like, step away from the creative side. I put so much money, and I would not have been able to do the last 2 albums I did. The Fire, I mean, that was, I crowdfunded for Fire. So I ended up getting backers through Indiegogo. And having backers fund that album. But outside of the actual cost of the album, there were still additional costs that went into it. The last project, or the EP, Hold On, I did a pre-sale. So I was able to raise at least half the funds through doing a pre-sale through my website. You have to be creative about it. But even take that all away, the amount of money that goes into just creating the music, and then the amount of money that you get back just from the music is so drastic and so different. And so you have to kind of be okay with that. But I got to this point where I thought, okay, I'm growing every year, thank God. I'm still growing the business, but it's growing very slowly. And as much as I love touring, and I know that touring is the bulk of my money right now as an independent artist, I don't want to be on the road playing someone's house when I'm 50, 60 years old. I just don't. Like, I want to be able to, you know, I'm in my late 30s now, so I want to get to a point where I might have a home of my own. I might have a family. I love traveling. I love vacationing. And those are things that you have to, I've started having the realistic, and this is the big if, my business will continue to grow, but if it doesn't grow any further past where it is right now, how do I sustain it? How do I keep doing something I love? And so for me, but you know, something's got to give somewhere. And so for me, I had this thought, well, okay, I already know how to run this business. What if I learned how to run another business that could bring in a significant amount of income when done correctly? You know, I mean, there's so many layers to real estate on the investment side. You know, you've got flips, and you've got the rental properties, you've got lease options, you've got tax liens, Airbnbs. But you can also do, you know, work with other investors and do assignments. And so for me, my thought was, okay, I've got Monday through Friday off. I picked up driving Uber and Lyft in town when I'm here, just to help having extra income to cover any car expenses or anything. Yeah, but that's the other thing. I don't want to do Uber and Lyft for forever.
No, I mean.
So, but there's that thought of, like, how can I build something to where 5 to 10 years down the road, all of my bills are being paid through that, so then all the money that comes in through music can just be reinvested back into music. And that really way I can be a little bit more selective with my touring. I can be home to write and create and record. I can also have enough funds to pay a band to come on the road with me. It's learning how to build the finances up. You know, and I have had some investment opportunities in terms of other people wanting to invest in my career. It makes me a little nervous getting involved in that. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I think if somebody wants to give you money, you take it.
Well, with no strings attached.
Yes, but there has to be, you have to be smart with it. And the thing is, I know right now that the return on music, there's just got to be a balance. And this goes back to me wanting to be in control. And really wanting to be able to do music the way that I want to do it. Once again, not saying I would never work with anybody, so if there's anybody listening that likes my music and you want to talk, give me a call. But I had to figure out another option, because for me, the way the music industry is going, especially with iTunes now and everybody streaming, it's how do you make money in a business where people are not buying the music? And it's not to say there isn't money to be made. There's tons of money to be made in music.
If you hit big.
If you hit it, but you can still, but then it goes back to what's success, you know? Like you can make money independently and touring and doing all of that.
Hard work.
But you have to keep going because you are still the product.
That's right.
Like, you can't stop working if you are the name.
It'd be like McDonald's, like saying, well, Ronald McDonald, we don't need you anymore. You know, but Ronald's got to show up at the restaurant to play with kids, you know? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that.
You can't, if you are the only person that's creating the content, then you have to keep creating the content.
You do.
And you can't ever stop. And I don't want to stop. I love music. But how do I do it and take some of the pressure off and doing it because I have to make money at it versus doing it because I really just enjoy doing it, you know, and I like connecting with my fans and I like creating this movement of self-love and empowerment.
And that's what I love about your music.
You know?
Your songs have that common thread.
I try.
They do, man. It's like,
I try. I know.
We can overcome, you know, I mean, but people are going through hard times and that's your role of serving culture.
Yeah.
You know, you're helping them to cope with daily life.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the whole real estate thing too, because it's funny how your mind changes. Like when you first start doing music and you're working a job trying to do your music, all you can think about is how much you hate your job.
Yes.
That's all you can think.
Yes.
And you think, I want to be out of this job. I want to be doing music for somebody. But there's something to be said about being able to say, well, I do this so I can do this. And if you're able to say, now if you're working a job you hate, get out of there.
Right.
Sure.
Why water a dead tree?
But I think there's a lot of pressure too, and any area, not just music, where we say, if I'm going to be a musician, if this is my one goal, then that's the only thing I'm allowed to do. And I think that's terrible. I think that's a terrible, terrible place to be in, to say that's the only thing that I'm going to be good at, and
let me
the
find
only
a little box and just get in.
Yes, let me just like limit my ability to grow this without actually thinking, well, if I can pull in money doing this, and then if I can pull in some money doing this, and if I can create these other avenues of income, so if I ever have a year or a month where, let's say 4 of my shows canceled and that was my monthly income, I've got income coming in from other sources, so that I can still do music. I can still do what I love.
Smart.
You know?
Are you hearing this? Are you hearing this, kids? I mean, seriously, this gal, she got it going on.
I guess.
I mean, you do, because you're here doing it.
I'm doing it.
I mean, you're still doing it.
Well, and the other thing too is that my mentality is, okay, I know I'm burnt out and I know I'm tired. So that means I got to start hiring people, and which means I have to start building the income to hire people.
Yeah, because it's like an onion, right? Layers of onion, and you're the core.
You just have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone, learn new skills, and hustle.
Yeah.
Like that's for me and it was the quote you had posted about.
Man, I love that quote.
I get really frustrated sometimes. Like there are amazing musicians out there that are independent, that are busting their butts on the streets, but then you'll meet independent artists. Like I meet people all the time that are like, well, how do I get involved in this? I'm like, you just have to start working. And they're like, well, but I don't know, I don't know if I can find the time to do this. And you have the time to work. Like you have it. So a lot of it is getting out of your own way and not wanting to work. When I first started, was I lazy? Absolutely. Am I still lazy on occasion? Absolutely. Sometimes. But I also know when I'm allowed to be lazy, when I'm allowed to take the day to binge Netflix, and then when I actually need to get out of my house and hustle. Like you just have to find that balance and be understanding the fact that and now I say this with a big warning. I'm not saying that nobody's ever going to help you out in your career and you're not going to make money. You are. But if you're the only one responsible for it, how are you going to make it happen?
Yeah.
So.
Right. That's right. Well, man,
that's
is so good. And
I hope I don't get any hate mail from that.
No, you're not, man. This is like, I mean,
talk.
Well, the truth can either make you bitter or better. It's how you take it.
That's true. I had a conversation with a guy 2 or 3 years ago who was writing music, and he was here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And won't say names, but he kept saying, I kept saying, why don't you just put that on iTunes? It's a great song, put it on iTunes. Oh, well, I gotta wait for my management company to get lined up with this, and then, like we're really shopping for this right now. And now, literally 2 or 3 years later, that song is out on iTunes. And I was like, you just missed 2 or 3 years. Like, stop waiting for everything to be perfect to get to work.
Well, I always say those who are waiters end up being waiters.
Yeah. Aww.
You know what I mean?
But there's a lot of respect for the service industry.
I know, but I'm just saying. But I wasn't.
Oh, you meant in terms of being just waiting.
They're just known as they're professional waiters.
I thought you meant
no, well, you can take it that way, and that's the way. That's the way I said it. I didn't mean it like that. Although you could take it either way. But if you wait and you're just known as a waiter, you're not.
You're just waiting for.
You're waiting for something.
Yeah,
and that's really that quote of what you said.
And the thing is too, this is not something just centered for music. This is all business, all areas of life, relationships, anything. Learning how to just take action on something
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You start again. You just find another way.
That's right.
So.
Well, man, this has been an incredibly wonderful interview, and I'm so glad to
Maybe
have
I should be a coach.
You need to be a coach, a musician's coach. I'm thinking that you have a career and a vocal coach because you can sing like crazy.
Well, a vocal coach that also is taking vocal lessons again now too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find your music again?
You can find me at amygerhartz.com. You can find me on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, as long as iTunes is still here.
Right. Spotify, yes or no?
Spotify.
Do you like yes or Spotify or no? Loaded question.
That's a big loaded question. My first inclination is to say no, I don't like Spotify. However, that would be very hypocritical because I also utilize Spotify on occasion to find new artists.
Yeah.
I think if you really truly like something, and if you really truly want to support a musician, buy their stuff. Buy it. I buy Kelly Clarkson's album. Does Kelly Clarkson need my money? No.
No.
But I buy it because it's pretty damn good.
Wow.
And that's how I feel about it. I don't mind Spotify for streaming and finding things that you really like. But I also have to acknowledge that that's the way our industry's going. And there's going to come a time, kids and adults, that you're going to have to acknowledge that you might not make the money you want to make off your music. So how else are you going to make the money?
Wow.
You know?
There you go. And you gave some incredible information on how to do that.
I hope so.
I'm so excited to meet you.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming down to Live Oak and in front of the beautiful tree here in the heart.
I hope there was at least some decent.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was amazing. I can't wait to edit it so I can listen back to it and learn again because you're doing it.
Absolutely.
So all the best to you in your career and your new music and keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks so much.
Thanks for watching Musicians Anonymous, and Amy, thank you again. We'll be back again with another episode here real soon, and have a great day. Bye.